Hello, everyone. Father Smith, they talked a little bit about blessings. And I must say that it's been a God-given blessing for me to know Bobby for the last 15 years or so. An extremely dedicated person, unbelievably dedicated father, and I'm sure Kristen and Andrew would attest to.
Too dedicated.
Too dedicated, maybe. Okay. We'll find out. We'll find out. The man is always upbeat in the face of any kind of adversity. And so many other good qualities, but as I understand it today, this particular venue, we want to bring up some of the qualities on the other side. Is that right, Bob?
Yes. Gross.
So the question really begs itself, how much time do I have? I'll talk about three qualities of Bobby. Listen up, Cathy, because you're signing up tomorrow for a long time. A few hours ago, my wife Gail and I left our little town of Bethel, got in the car, drove to Brewster, New York, got on a train, came down to Grand Central Station, proceeded to walk toward the church. And unbelievably, in this great, huge city of ours, New York City is still the biggest city in the world, I guess, I don't know. What do we run into but Cathy? We run into Cathy. How do you like that? And what is Cathy doing? Running. She's looking, she's calling, she's waiting, trying to find out where Bob is. If you know Bob, you know that he is never on time for anything. And he was about 15 minutes behind in this one particular situation. Now, Bob and I, it's pretty safe to say that I know Bob in a different way from anybody in this room, I'm sure, because of our exploits in the outdoors, our love of hunting, our love of fishing, that sort of thing. You travel around with someone, you go to the wilderness with them, you need a person that you can depend on, and you learn a lot about that person. One thing you learned about Bob is he's never on time. I can't tell you how many times I've been at his house, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, having to throw pebbles at his windows to try to wake him up to go either hunting or fishing. Last time, last summer, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I had a car full of friends. We were supposed to get to Rhode Island by 8 o'clock, and I'm standing out there throwing pebbles at the windows. Guys are asking me, are you crazy? What's wrong with this guy? Anyway, that kind of overshadowed, not quite overshadowed the time when I think I waited for you, Bill and I waited for you about 6 hours in Salt Lake City because you missed your plane on the way to Alaska. So, Cathy, I might just say to you, if he doesn't show up for pictures tomorrow when you think he's going to, be patient, he'll be there. He's very dedicated, he'll be there.
I'm a producer before I'm a woman.
Now, the second thing, the second quality of Bob, is a propensity for getting lost. Now, I've hunted with him. I hunted with him on his land. It's 170 acres of land in Bethel, where he spent most of his life growing up on. And I just known him 1 or 2 years, and we're back in the back of the acreage. Comes time to go home. I said, Bob, we better get back. Okay, he turns around and proceeds west. Now, the way home was east, down the hill. I mean, here I am on the property for the second time. I've got to tell him how to go home. So it's a long way back to the church, to the home. And we're walking down, and every once in a while I look at him. He gives me this indignant look like this, like, who are you looking at? I know where I am. Anyway, we get to the hill that's directly overlooking his property. You know, the back hill, right, Andrew? And we didn't get to where I purposely stopped, where you still couldn't see the house. And I look at him, and he just says, oh, shut up and keep going, will you? He didn't have a clue what I was. Now, this is a guy who took a job driving a cab in New York. He lasted about 6 months, presumably because he probably never took anybody where they wanted to go. So we were hunting across the street from his property, no more than, say, 200 yards from his house. And it got dark, it was time to go home. So I went to his stand where he was, picked him up, and said, "We better get going, you know, it's getting late." He said, "Okay, yeah, let's go." Turns around, proceeds immediately to the swamp, on his way to Shut Road. I said, "Bob, you're going the wrong way." "No, I'm not going the wrong way." I couldn't convince him that he was going the wrong way. Until we looked through the trees, the dark autumn night, and we see these lights. I said, "Bob, see those lights? Those are the lights of your neighbors on the hill. Not 100 yards, 200 yards from where we are." Finally, I convinced him, it's the only way we got out of the woods. If we had seen those lights, I think we'd still be looking for them. We wonder if it's coming back. So, Cathy, my second piece of advice to you is, it's a large piece of land out there. You and Bob spend the weekend, you decide to go for any walks, either take the dog, or a compass, or GPS, because you may not be seen again.
The dog leaves us and finds a way home, and we're still lost.
Follow the dog. And just to keep it short, I'll bring up one other thing. Bob can be, I mean, you're signing up.
I feel that's short, but...
You're signing up, so Bob can be a little on the eccentric side. My buddy and I, Bill, we're going on this trip to Alaska. Bob wanted to join us. I already told you how he missed the flight. Well, and the float planes up there, they take you out on the float planes and they drop you off in the wilderness. And these tiny little planes, and they're very weight limited. You can't bring a lot of weight. So Bob, or Bill and I, bought a lot of military issue dried food. These dried meals that you can make by sterilizing water and cooking them up. It's the same as the military eats. And they're quite good. But you know, it didn't seem too appealing to Bob. So, unbeknownst to us, on this plane as he came in, he took various things with him, like cooking oil and maybe vinegar, spices, and quite a decent amount of, what shall we say, cooking alcohol, Bob. And we would finish our dinners on dried food, and they weren't bad. They were pretty good food. And then he'd always bring out this extra thing. He was in a tent by himself. And he'd mix all these things together, and Bill and I would look and say, what the heck is that going on? Well, you know what? He would cook up these sauces and dressings, and they were pretty good. We couldn't believe it. They were pretty good. And after the first day, he shot caribou. For those of you who may not be educated in this kind of thing, a reindeer. And he brought that back to camp, and he starts cutting the meat up. He said, I want to cook some of this meat. Well, we had to show him the difference between a rear leg and a liver. But after we showed him that, we started cooking up some things that we would eat after our dried food. And Monday comes, Tuesday comes, and you know, son of a gun, he's a pretty good tasting things. You know, maybe it's a good thing we brought this guy. And throughout the week, we started noticing and wondering, you know, what makes this stuff taste so good? We started to notice that Band-Aids would appear on all of his fingers. And after 5 days, multiple Band-Aids and cuts on his left hand. Severely depleting our first aid kit that Bill and I always took. And we looked at him the last day, he even had cuts on his fingers of his right hand that holds the knife. How do you do that? We finally concluded that all these things tasted so good because there was so much blood in them. Not the blood of the caribou, but the blood of his own fingers that he kept cutting off. So, my last piece of advice to you, Cathy, is, you know, if you like ham, Cathy, buy one of those pre-sliced hams. Or when Thanksgiving comes around, why don't you do the carving of the meat and save yourself a trip to the emergency room? So, just a little indoctrination here, a little training ahead of time for Cathy. And just to say, and to finish, this was not exaggerated. This was embellished, but not exaggerated. But we sure have had a lot of fun with Bobby on our trips across the world to Scotland, Alaska, Newfoundland, Wyoming, other places, and who knows what else in the future. Scotland, I say, yeah. So Bobby and Cathy, I want to wish you both the best. Stay dedicated, Bobby, as I know you will. And Cathy, just those 3 little lessons you got to remember about Bobby. Everything
I got it.